The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Steven Cash here with my co-host, Tulio Siragusa, and our special guest today, who we'll introduce in a second. So a recent global study found that 64% of consumers now rank sustainability as a top 3 consideration when they make purchasing decisions, even in the middle of economic uncertainty. And at the same time, surveys show that more than 80% of workers prefer to work for companies whose values match their own and that take environmental and social responsibility seriously. So customers and employees are watching not just what companies sell, but how they operate. And today we're exploring what it looks like to run a values-driven, sustainably minded business in a highly regulated, complex industry. Tulio, introduce our special guest today.
Absolutely. Today, our guest is Shelby Parsons. She's the COO of Premier Inspection Services. Shelby's an MBA-educated business and architecture professional who started working with her dad at the age of 13 and has been building businesses with him ever since. She now co-owns a building inspection firm, an architecture practice, and a residential real estate investment business, bringing a grounded entrepreneurial perspective shaped by years of hands-on experience. At Premier Inspection Services, Shelby focuses on safe construction of educational and municipal buildings with a strong commitment to creating a better and more sustainable future for the communities they serve. Shelby, welcome to the Bliss Business Podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor. I'm looking forward to talking about our business and what we're doing to build for our future. And it's just been great just talking to you guys about ethics and how they are intertwined with our businesses. Looking forward to it.
So Shelby, a lot of sustainability conversations get framed around marketing campaigns or surface level initiatives. In your work, sustainability and ethics show up in building codes and long-term safety and decisions that affect the communities for decades.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when you think about sustainable business practices and ethics, what does that really mean to you in that context? And maybe how has it shaped, the way you run your businesses?
It's a good question. I think sustainability can get really overcomplicated. Personally, it's I think it's something that we had talked about before. It's like we think about sustainability in decades, not so much quarters. I mean, it's been great to be so young in this field because I tell people I'm not going anywhere. I mean, I'm whatever we say today better be true in 20, 30 years, whatever, in 10 years, because I'm still gonna have to stand by the decisions we make today. So, that's been a huge plus to everything we do. But I think, like you said, we do have a lot of oversight as well. And that's been amazing as well. I just think it's our responsibility, especially in the line of work we're in for inspections specifically. We're dealing with a lot of students, a lot of educational projects. So when it comes to education, we think about the big picture with who our real client is. So usually it's going to be a student. It's going to be, the K through 14 that we have, because we do community colleges as well. So it's going to be whoever's utilizing the buildings. So that's, that always kind of comes back to why we're doing what we do.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's that shift of thinking about of your client. It's not just, okay, here's the the agency that's paying us or something. It's the children, the child going to the school, right? It's that end person that you got to think of. That really makes you a little bit more empathetic in your process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're in a tough industry in terms of sometimes having reputation of cutting corners, right? I mean, you operate in a space, you've got regulation, inspections, contractors, public institutions you're serving. all interacting at once. And in those environments, cutting corners can be tempting and sometimes hard to spot. From your experience, where do you see ethical risks show up most most often in construction and in real estate? And what have you intentionally done, for example, to differentiate how you protect people and maintain trust in those environments? Even with your subcontractors, how do you manage that in such a way to maintain those ethical standards?
I think to answer your question about where do we see the biggest risk for cutting corners, I would say timelines. Timelines and budgets would be a big one. Budgets as in, so what we do, and a lot of this I've learned from my dad. Okay, so I have to give a lot of the kudos to him. But a lot of what we do is we are representing the client. And so when we go out to a site, we are definitely inspecting per the approved drawings and per the code. But we also need to make sure that the client is being protected. So, we tell our clients, we're your eyes and ears in the field, but we truly are, because if we notice that a contractor, not that this has ever happened, but that a contractor is using, a lesser material or a cheaper whatever, and we know that that's not what the client paid for, we know that they paid for something higher. While it's not necessarily our job every time to call that out, we will, just because, it's the right thing to do and because the client did pay for it. So I will say the budget is one of the biggest things that we've seen, but timelines as well, that's a big one. Just there's a lot of unethical behavior that pops up when you're trying to meet a very tight deadline. Just not just corner cutting, but much more hot ticket items start getting pushed to the side. Just safety concerns that we just need to hit, we need to have a grand opening, we need to occupy, we need to whatever, but we can't because it's something that we know needs to be resolved, but they want to just kick it to the curb.
Is the pressure higher dealing with public schools or municipality in terms of how that's influenced your view on business responsibility, or less? Do they have higher standards, or do they usually push for more of that? We got to meet the deadline. What's been your experience as opposed to commercial work?
Yeah. I mean, it can be very tense sometimes when you're dealing with certain school facilities. So let's say you have schools that are in interim housing. Like if you have students in interim housing, which means they're in temporary facilities, and we're waiting to occupy a building, there is a lot of pressure to get those things done faster. And there's certain things that have to get done correctly in order to occupy a building, but it doesn't always get done. So we've kind of created and there's a couple other consultants who do this, but we're one of the few who does this. We come in after the fact and we'll do closeout work. So we'll do everything the state needs to get projects closed out correctly. But a lot of the times it's 30-year-old projects that didn't have everything submitted. So this happens every single day. So we have projects that are 30, 40 years old, here we are decades later, and I mean, it's still happening. So,
I'm picturing a project that's 30, 40 years old. Things are changing, regulation wise during that time. So that happens a lot where it's hey, when you started out with this, now we've got to do this, this, and this. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. It's well, you don't inspect, but we do inspect old projects. We do a lot of architecture as well for those older projects, and those ones, it's per the code at the time of approval. So that could be 96, whatever the code was back then. But I mean, that's now 30 years ago, which is crazy. But that's now if we're looking 30 years back, it's the late 90s. So to us, honestly, it doesn't seem like that old of a project, but they didn't have email, they didn't have a lot of electronic, a lot of electronic files that we need nowadays.
And thinking about the other side of that, do you need to look 20, 30, 40 years in the future of where stuff's going, and what kind of, when it comes to sustainability and ethics, what kind of things are you considering then?
So I think speed and complexity are like some of the biggest ones. It's kind of vague, but those are like the biggest ones that we're looking at for, for just issues with ethics, I guess, just to specifically focus on that. Would be speed and complexity, because when everything moves faster and like responsibility starts getting like fragmented, I guess it becomes like a lot easier to cut corners without ever meaning to. You don't, it doesn't always happen, but it kind of takes somebody, not always us, it could be somebody who just notices it to just speak up. So yeah, it's more, complexity is a big part of it. It's what type of job, that kind of stuff, like the different details.
I can imagine it could be difficult. You have regulation, deregulation, regulation again, and it's like a roller coaster ride. And keeping up it's got to be intentional, and doing it in a way that you have your own standards. I guess that's a good way to stand out. So for those who might struggle with, those leaders who might struggle with committing to sustainable practices and don't know even where to start, what advice would you give them? What are some of the key things that they ought to be looking at first, and that where they can have the best sort of bang for the buck in terms of putting something in place that is will be sustainable long term?
I'll make some assumptions. So I'm going to say it's a startup, if that's okay. So I'll start with something smaller there. But I would say start small and closer than what you think, because that's, it's so easy to start going really big with like your sustainability commitment, and like we do this and we do that, but like put it into practice, like put your money where your mouth is. So start small, like start by asking the questions, who is affected by this decision, who down the line is going to be affected. And I think if you're just to actually focus on, clarity, honesty, just transparency, sustainability just becomes manageable. It's practical.
So we've got audience questions already. Let's put one in here real quick.
It's a very popular topic today.
So in highly regulated, high-stakes industries like construction and inspections, where margins and timelines and compliance pressures are intense, what's one ethical or sustainability decision you've made?
Great question.
That is a really good question. I'm going to use a very recent example. We were on a job site, and we were offered a bribe. Just straight up offered a bribe. And It's not the first time. It's definitely the first time. But it was one of the few times that, I had to just look them dead in the eye and just say, no. I mean, I don't have the authority to kick them off the site. I don't. But, it makes you want to, honestly. But I think in that regard, so I can answer the question, like, what's one ethical or sustainable decision we've made? I mean, bribes are no go. It doesn't matter where we're at or who we're dealing with. It's something that we've definitely made clear to anybody we work with at this point. And so just more so with, it's not just with us. Like, we do architecture, we do house flipping. So we're not always the inspectors. We're on the other side of it a lot of the time too. And so we know how this goes with different jurisdictions. We know what it's like to be on the other side of it. So we do try to work together. So I think to answer the question, we try to, our slogan is teaming together to build a better and safer tomorrow. We do try to team together, in an ethical way, because we're trying to be see everybody's point of view, and so that all stakeholders are, kept happy.
Yeah.
What makes me nervous about that too is that this person offering that bribe, this is probably not the first time, nor is it something they've not had success with somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And especially,
it was pretty the audacity, I guess. But yes, I agree. It was the way that it was done was very clear that it was not the first time.
Spend the money doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Instead of a bribe,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So thinking about that a little bit, companies with strong ethical cultures have been shown to kind of, outperform their peers in customer satisfaction, loyalty, innovation, growth, and not getting themselves into trouble in situations like that. Like, how do you build that ethical system within your company so that, no matter what your size is, that when that happens with someone else, some other project or something like that, on your team, that they're just going to say hell no to something like that, right?
Yeah.
What do you you have any practices or any systems you put into place, or personal kind of
Yeah.
approach that you take?
I mean, I would say yes, only in the sense that we stay small, like we're manageable. I think one of the biggest, and I mean, I'm guilty of this as much as the next person who owns a business, like the fear of growing too big to manage, like the fear of not being able to, not micromanage, but not being able to oversee everything and having to actually trust people becomes like, a huge fear of mine, honestly. And, that's the actual processes we have. Yes. So, thankfully in our line of work, we do answer to somebody, and we answer like daily to the state mostly. That's for school inspections, K through 14, or we have a jurisdictional authority for the state of California that we do answer to, and they are extremely, on it when it comes to especially ethics with any of our reporting. Yeah, we have a very strict reporting process that goes, yes, things get through, it happens, but I would say we rely very much on the documents for the state, but not just documents. I mean, it's a lot more that happens off paper. It's just, knowing that you're going to have to report to somebody, I think keeps a lot of people in line, but knowing that we do hold them accountable for it as well. So it's not just reporting to us, it's saying, oops, my bad. No, like we will hold you accountable for it.
Yeah, it's kind of, the system is really from the state down to, the individual contractor level, right? Trying to keep everyone in line there. But obviously, not everyone's staying in line with that.
We have a follow-up question from, I think it's Elizabeth on YouTube. But before we go into that question, I think this is a good segue. There's big conversation right now about whether things like empathy, purpose, and ethics can truly scale as a company grows. You've touched on a lot of things that requires tremendous empathy, being very purposeful and intentional. And it's easier to do when you're smaller and you have more tightly knit control. We just talked about how do you create systems for that, so as you scale, you can systemize it. But one big thing that is to embody those values as a small family business. It's another maintaining those across dozens of projects, partners, and even jurisdictions. Do you believe that sustainability and ethical decision making can be scaled across a larger ecosystem? And what systems or habits have you found most important for making that possible? You touched on it a little bit. Just curious, for those who might be like, oh, we're a big company, we can't control that. Well, is that true?
I don't think it's true. I think you can stay ethical no matter what size your company is, personally. I think, to answer your question, yes, you can scale a business, but with intention. And it needs to be, I mean, I wouldn't say we have like a business plan that's like laid out for the next 15, 20 years, whatever. I mean, I do look ahead. I'm always looking at like, what's coming down the pipeline, that kind of stuff. But, to say that we have this whole plan to take over, all inspections or quality in the US, that it's just, we want to maintain our relationships with our clients. And in order to do that, it does require intentional business, just being intentional with everything we do. So I really do enjoy what I do. I mean, my dad asked me a couple months ago, he's like, do you enjoy going to work? I'm like, sometimes, sometimes it can be a difficult day, but I think it really, now it's, as we become more intentional, I would say 2 months ago, I think it was almost like a year ago, really. But now we've gotten a lot more intentional with what we're doing. And yes, like I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work. It just feels like, it's always been like kind of like my first child that I ever had. the business that we have. And so it feels like we're only like growing it, cultivating it when, we have the amazing clients that we have.
You know what I love about what you just said? It sounded like the main focus is connection and relationship with customers. And ultimately, if you focus on that, everything else just kind of naturally aligns, because you wouldn't put a relationship at risk by doing something that would introduce a friction point in that relationship.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. And I think this speaks to the next question. We have a follow-up from Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great question. What's one ethical or sustainable decision you've made that was genuinely hard in the moment, but ultimately strengthened trust or long-term performance? Sometimes it's hard to do the right thing.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's tough. But I appreciate the question, because I have a couple that come to mind. It's okay. Yeah. So we have a project, and we were asked to not terminate, but we were basically told that the client wanted to finish the job themselves, meaning that they wanted us to basically stop billing. That's pretty much it. They just wanted to save money, didn't want to pay for the services we were providing. And that's completely fine. We know that. We're on call most of the time. So we're at their disposal. If they don't want to pay us, then give us a heads up. We're good to go. But I will say, I think a lot of this line of work, and in the last year or so, I've learned to kind of trust my gut. And something seemed off with the whole thing. Just nothing had been wrong with the project before. We were totally fine. Everything was totally fine. And it only been like maybe a couple months. It wasn't that long of a project, really. And the job ends, and then we get this blistering email that just from the client that just kind of was, all over the place. Everything we had done wrong, and this and that. We were just like, what in the world? It came out of nowhere, completely out of left field. And we had a really great relationship with them the entire time. We had no idea what was happening. And so I wanted to just counterattack, basically, with here's all the proof of what is going on. I don't really get it. But, my dad, actually, he's always kind of voice of reason. He was like, how about we just set up a meeting? Let's just, don't, because I think a lot of people my age, honestly, we tend to rely on emails, texts, we like to hide behind a screen. We don't want to, we're not confrontational enough, in my opinion. And so I think we need to get more confrontational, because that's where relationships are really made. That's where connections are made. They see your face, they get to know you. But anyway, the whole thing turns out that somebody that was on site basically had told the client they would do it for much cheaper than us. And that's what happened, really. It was nothing to do with us. It was even though there was this whole blistering email about us, nothing to do with us. So we had a right to basically, sue them for a lot of different things, for slander, for lost wages, whatever. There was a whole claim we could have had about this whole thing. And finally, we were just like, why? What's the point? It's not. It wasn't so much the money. It was just, is this something we want to be known for? Getting litigious when things go wrong. No, we don't. It's just, things happen. It's construction. Things go awry all the time. And even though we might be in the right, it doesn't mean we have to, die on this hill. It's just, a choice was made, and we just decided not to pursue it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. When you're in the right about something, but you're choosing connection and long-term, basically the impact that it's going to have on your reputation. That's a tough one.
I like
audible.
I like the pause though in there, because I think you do have that initial almost knee-jerk reaction, I'm just going to go on blast right here. I know.
You want justice. It's you want justice.
To just write that out.
Oh, I had a whole email. I sent it over to my dad. I was like, what do you think? And he's just chill. He's like, this is not my first rodeo. I'll deal with it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that is some wisdom there. Is just that sometimes you do have to pound that one thing out that just says this, and then you do take that pause, and then it's okay, how do we really connect with this person and figure out what's going on so that, we're not getting pugilistic, I guess, like
I mean,
it could turn
just
into, right?
sleep on it. Give it
Yeah.
a day and come back to it. And if you still feel the same way, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All right. Well, let's move on to a segment we love doing with all of our guests, which talks about the impact of purpose on the business. In fact, studies show that employees who feel connected to a deeper purpose at work are significantly more likely to stay with a company and recommend it to others. And in the business you're in, it's a small community. Even the employees can have an impact on your reputation with clients. So when you combine that with the growing expectation that businesses contribute positively to society, purpose becomes really a strategic asset and not just a nice story. And only a few people and a few businesses really recognize that, which is sad because more should, all should. So when you zoom out from contracts, inspection, day-to-day operation, there's like the deeper purpose that sits underneath your work and, in the way you have designed your business. Like ultimately, building something is a transaction, but like what's the bigger drive that says this is what we stand for, this is our purpose in life as a business? If you could share that with us. We always love hearing the bigger picture purpose behind the business.
Yeah, I think the purpose has kind of evolved over time a little bit, but I think it's always kind of remained at its core protecting people. That's just, it doesn't matter who the people are. We're just protecting people. I think in this day and age, it's very easy to start getting into politics and into, finger pointing, that kind of thing. But at the core of it, that's not our job. Our job is to just protect the people that utilize the buildings that either we design, that we inspect, from concept to completion. I mean, and the completion can mean usage through the next 100 years. I don't care. It's just the people who are utilizing what we are a part of need to be protected. So I don't care how big or small the job is. I mean, right now we have like a $200 million project and it gets the same amount of care that, $35,000 bathroom addition is going to get. It's the exact same thing. So there's no difference for us in like the protection level that we give no matter what.
I like it's the simplicity of it. Protecting people is, it really does cater. When I'm thinking about it, as a marketer, I'm able to really think about stories, right, around that. Oh, so how does this translate into stories, that we can tell, that really allow you to have that protecting people kind of element of your business shine. And that's, to me, what really differentiates businesses sometimes is their ability to really get to that higher purpose in what they do. Everyone can, there's a lot of different inspectors out there. Obviously, of all different shapes and sizes and ethics. But when you think about it, protecting people, and you're thinking about that moment of where someone's offering you like that bribe or something like that, it's like, well, this is not protecting people, going through this. There's a reason that we do these things. And so the more you can infuse your culture and your business with that phrase of just protecting people, the more you can audit your business by that and do everything. When it comes to those moments, that's when you're going to be like, yeah, this is a hell no for us, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all about protecting people. So I love that you're able to, really articulate that. What have you learned about like finding meaning and purpose in the industries like construction and inspections and, over time?
I think things have changed as I became a parent, when I became a mom. I think a little bit of my mindset changed because we've always wanted to protect the people that use the buildings, but now that my kids are in these buildings, and we don't always inspect the ones that my kids specifically are in, but it's more like the big picture. It's like, I understand now, people with kids, it matters. I'll be honest, there's always going to be that parent, but we all know them, who, like, we just had this happen in one district. They walk in, they trip over a threshold, and they sue the district. nothing was wrong with the building. Like, the kids are totally fine, everything's good, but it's just a litigious parent, you know?
Mm.
So we can't do much about that. There's not much we can do about certain situations. But the big picture, you know, one of the biggest things we deal with, honestly, is fire life safety, pull stations. Like, a lot of schools pull out the pull stations. So you know what that is on the wall. When there's a fire, you pull it, you know, pull here for a fire. Yeah. Look around at schools next time you're there, because a lot of them pull them out. And it's because they know the students are going to go pull it. And it becomes like a hassle, right? It's a pain in the you know what. But so now a lot of them have gone like the it's pull-less. So now they have like a automatic system. So as soon as it detects smoke, it just, the whole thing goes off, right? Lights up. But that's something that we encounter because not all schools are on that system. They're still on that pull station system. And so, you know, one of the first things I did when my kids my oldest is only in kindergarten. So I have three. They're 5, 4, and 2. So only the oldest is in actual public school. And of course, I'm like looking at all the, you know, pull stations and, you know, looking around. But I would say, like, as a mom, it became a lot more close, like more personal for me. And so the purpose, like I said, at its core has always been to protect people, but now it feels a lot more personal.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about this a little bit before the show, but you've got to have some good advice for moms out there that are balancing being a mom and multiple businesses. What gets you through that without burnout?
Without burnout. Oh.
Sorry, we made it more difficult with that.
Yeah.
I know. I threw that in there. I mean, we're talking about purpose, so it's like.
I mean, things, you're gonna fail. I mean, it's just gonna happen. You know, it's going to happen. But I would say celebrate the small victories for sure. I mean, literally, if you have a deadline, I do a lot of RFPs, requests for proposals, and I have like 1 or 2 due a week. And so, if my kid has an event at 11, and you know I have something due at like 10:30, if I make it to the kids' event, I'm so happy with myself. I mean, like I've actually never missed a kids' event, but I'm just like I don't beat myself up over it. If you know, and the other thing is I don't beat myself up over missing things from work if it was for the sake of my child. So it's just something that I've kind of put in place in my own head. And my dad's always been somebody who says this, like, you have to prioritize your family life because, you know, there's always going to be another project. Sorry to say it, like there is another project. So if I miss a deadline to propose on a project, but you're never going to have, you know, another one of my kid, you know, like that specific kid. So you're never going to have that opportunity again with your family. And I think another part of it is I really do have an amazing husband. I have to say, like he's really always there. He knew when we got married. My husband and I met in August of 2019, and we got engaged in October. And we knew, you know. And he knew when we met that I was like, I'd already had this business with my dad. He knew that I was pretty driven to keep this business going for a long time, and he's always supported that. And so it's always been, I mean, we've lived in the flips, many of them. We've, you know, had to deal with construction. We've just dealt with it, and he's never complained. He just, you know, he just does it. And so to have somebody like that, like a teammate really, who supports me no matter what, has been a huge part of my life. And then having an amazing dad. I mean, this is just stuff that I do not take for granted because not everybody has these opportunities that I've had, and I'm just really grateful for them. But I'm going to say a support network. Like, even when you feel like you don't have one, you probably do have something. So I could just, you know, if I feel like I'm really failing, I just pick up the phone, call my husband or call my dad, and I'm like, I need help. Something's up. And so it's been amazing.
That's the.
I think that is so beautiful. First of all, I don't think your leaders give their spouses enough credit often enough for their success. You gotta give credit to spouses that are supporting some of the insane journeys that we go on. You know, you had said something that really struck a chord about the purpose being to protect people. It's a big purpose, you know, and that can take a business in many different directions. But, you know, in the business you're in, it's very transactional too. It's like you've got tasks, you've got people that are working there, your teams, your employees, they get on task, they have a job to do. Mm-hmm. Is there a way that you keep them motivating to continue to elevate their purpose, you know, to protect people. When you're doing a job, it's not just building this wall. It's how does this protect people? Is there some way that you encourage that, or you keep that in their sort of forefront of their day to day? Something that's worked for you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be a little more cynical than maybe some of your other guests, to be honest. I think either you have morality or you don't. I think either you have ethics or you don't. And I think, a lot of that many times it comes down to faith, to be honest. That's just my own personal perspective. But I think we can tell very quickly who we're going to be able to trust and who we're not. And I think the people that we've committed ourselves to have been extremely faithful. We always have like a trial period. We always go through some kind of trial period, and we're very clear with them. We'll give you 6 months to kind of figure this out. And if, as in like when they first start with us, we'll do like a 6-month kind of like trial period. And if things are working out, great. And if not, we see some red flags, and we trust that, and we move on. Because generally things don't get, better from that first, from people's first instincts. So I just think I love to see the world through rosy glasses, but I think as a business owner, I've become a little more cynical, honestly. Unfortunately, it kind of lends itself to incentivizing. I don't agree with incentivizing people to be ethical. That's not something I agree with, but other people might, and that's fine. But
hire the right people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes the incentives incentivize being not ethical. We've seen that with big companies when something like that gets in their system. People find a way to hit those incentives no matter what. One question we always ask on the show, and I'm thinking about it even in the context of, you mentioned your husband being supportive, you mentioned your dad in the sort of family business, but you can answer it that way or take it some other direction. But what role does love play in business? It's a question we like to ask.
I don't think love is soft in business. I think it can be, the courage to just stand up for the right thing. I mean, even if you'll lose a client, I'm sorry to say it, that's loving whoever is the person that you're not loyal to, but the person who's really at stake. So that's, we'll walk away from a job we have when we're just this is wrong. And, it's not a love for, and I will take it the direction you said about my dad. So my dad is licensed, and, I'm extremely loyal to my dad. And my dad is, if you're not going to do it right, don't do it. And that's the way it's always been. So, he's come down hard on me a few times. It's just, but that's love. It's just, if I'm not doing the right thing, I need to be told that. But sometimes you just don't know. And you need somebody with more experience to tell you that hey, I see the way you're doing this, not right. And so it's not always soft, I think, would be the answer to that. But I think it does have a place, for sure, in business and with ethics and sustainability, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you answered it beautifully. I mean, it isn't sometimes a soft thing that people want to think about. And that's where those get to that ability to make those tough decisions without really second guessing. Sometimes is when you really know what love is in terms of your business, it makes those decisions much, much easier.
Yeah.
I think over time.
Shelby, before we wrap up, we're at the end here. Just one quick question. If someone had to choose one thing they could do, someone's listening, a leader, what's one thing they could do maybe this month, right? Before the month is out, we've got another week left, that they could do to get them on the right track with being a sustainable business that practices ethics, what would that be? What's that one piece of advice you would give?
Get out of the office. I mean, get out there, talk to the people who are on the front line. I mean, any line of work you're in, there's people on the front line. It doesn't matter who you're dealing with. For me, it's people on site. It's the people that have to deal with construction every single day. While I sit in the office, the nice air-conditioned office, and don't have to deal with a lot of the BS that they have to deal with. So that's what I would say. Get out, be on the front lines.
Get in the trenches. I love that.
Yeah.
Shelby, for those who want to learn more about you, Premier Inspection Services, and the work you're doing around safe, sustainable construction, where can they find you and follow you or learn more about you?
My office. No. We're here in LA. You can go to our website, preminspect.com, or you can just go to my LinkedIn to Shelby Parsons with Premier Inspections.
Shelby, thanks for joining us today. To our listeners, thank you for the questions. Thank you for listening as always. And as you think about your own organization, ask where your decisions today are creating things like, long-term safety, trust, and where you might need to raise the bar, in some of those areas. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.